If you're in the market for a used car that offers 7-seat versatility and practicality, you probably don't immediately think Audi, and you probably don't think luxury SUV as well. But the Audi Q7 is a car that offers 7 seats, it offers practicality, and it also offers comfort and refinement. It does come at a slight premium though. So we're going to find out today, is it worth paying that premium for one of these used Audi Q7s, specifically this second generation that you can find quite readily available on the used market. The launch of the first generation Audi Q7 back in 2005 was a significant milestone for Audi, marking their bold entry into the luxury SUV market. The Q7 wasn't just about adding an SUV to the Audi lineup though. It was about setting new standards for luxury, performance and technology within the segment as a whole. The Q7 introduced a level of refinement and versatility that immediately positioned Audi as a formidable player in the SUV market. This second generation, which debuted in 2015, brought a host of improvements that made a great SUV even better. Weight reduction and advanced aerodynamics led to enhanced fuel efficiency and handling dynamics. Inside, the second gen Q7 also boasts a more luxurious and tech-savvy interior thanks to an updated MMI infotainment system and cabin materials and build quality that were elevated to new heights. The ride comfort was also improved thanks to the adaptive air suspension available on higher trims. When it comes to trim levels, buyers can choose from Sport, S-Line and Black Edition, each offering a distinct blend of features and aesthetics. The Sport trim provides a solid foundation with leather upholstery, LED headlights and the virtual cockpit. The S-Line adds a sportier edge with larger alloy wheels, sport suspension and S-Line styling cues. And at the top end you've got the Black Edition, which offers black exterior accents, 21-inch alloy wheels and an upgraded sound system. What's the interior of the Audi Q7 like? Well, it is everything you'd hope for, I think, from an Audi. It is extremely solid and well built. I mean, this, like, nothing moves if you try to do the standard motoring wiggle test. Everything is incredibly well screwed down, robust materials throughout. It's also got some really nice accents. I quite like the kind of brushed steel effect. It just lightens the cabin really quite nicely and just overall gives an impression of just kind of quality and premium materials throughout. It's a very well thought out setup overall. You've just got a nice mixture of things that are really kind of useful and easy to use. In terms of the dash, we don't have the virtual cockpit, which is available as an option, but we do have 2 analog dials and then a little digital screen in between the dials. You've got this pop-up infotainment screen, which, let's be honest, does look dated, especially when you compare it to something like an XC90, for example, which has a big portrait screen. It is beginning to look a little bit on the kind of old side compared to rivals, but it's effective. It's actually a good size, it's very clear, and it's very easy to use with this Audi MMI system. In some of the later Mark II Audi Q7s, the infotainment system changed and it was all touchscreen operation essentially, and a lot of the buttons disappeared, and many people actually prefer these slightly earlier versions of the Mark II where you've got the physical buttons to use. Those buttons are all very robust, very nice to touch, very tactile, plenty of feedback when you turn them. Everything you'd want to have quick access to is down the bottom here, so your heated seats, your climate controls, you've got a trackpad and wheel to use the infotainment system as well, and yeah, just overall it just screams quality. You've also got a couple of cup holders here. They are a little on the small side, you couldn't fit any large bottles in there. You have a 12-volt socket also, and a couple of USB ports within the armrest. There's plenty of space for a big bottle in the side of the door as well, but one thing I will say is that they're not actually lined, so if you put some loose items in there you may get a bit of noise as they roll around inside. Everything you touch within the Audi Q7 feels very nice. So you've got some soft touch materials up here for resting your arm on. You've got some very nice Alcantara inserts in the door there that are very nice to touch. The seats as well, with this mix of leather and Alcantara, are very comfortable in the S-Line. They are nicely supportive without being kind of too restrictive. One thing to bear in mind with the Audi Q7 is that yes, this is a premium car, it is luxurious, it is comfortable, but it's also practical. It is able to fulfill the duties of a family workhorse. So it's always worth checking that everything works as it's supposed to. There may well be scuffs and scrapes around the cabin from kids, dogs, in and out of the car. So it's always worth giving it a good once over. But what I will say is, due to the quality of the materials, it should hold up to that family battering really quite well. On to the second row of the Audi Q7. And if I do have one complaint, it is that it is a little bit dark back here. That's down to a couple of factors. Firstly, we've got the tints on the windows, and secondly, we don't have a panoramic sunroof. If it was me personally, I would probably opt for a model with that pan roof just to let some extra light into the back here, and you don't have to be worried about any concerns that the roof is going to eat into headspace, because there is plenty. I am just under 6'2", and I am very, very comfortable in the back here. I can fit nice and easily in the seat. This driver's seat is in my position, so it's pretty much all the way back, and I've still got plenty of knee room, plenty of space for my feet. I also like that in this middle row of the Audi Q7, you've got 3 individual chairs, all of which can slide and move independently of each other. So if you wanted some more boot space, you can move the seat forwards and open up some extra cargo area at the back there. You can also recline the seats, so it's really easy to get comfortable in the back here. Each one of these seats has Isofix anchor points for those child seats. You also have climate controls at the back here, so this has got 4-zone climate, and some air vents on the side as well as in the middle. There aren't any USB points, but beneath the climate controls you do have 2 12-volt sockets, so you can charge plenty of devices in this middle row of the Audi Q7. There's some decent space in the door pockets, and you've also got a central armrest that comes down here and opens out to have 2 further cup holders. So all in all, I would say it's a really, really practical space back here. There's lots and lots of room, lots of useful features, and also the seats are very, very comfortable. In the very rearmost seats of the Audi Q7, it's safe to say space is a bit more of a premium than it is in the middle row. I've had to move these seats as far forward as they will go just to get in the back here, and it's safe to say it's not the most comfortable experience. I do actually have some knee room, but my knees are really quite high up, and I'm having to slouch a little bit to make sure that my head's not against the roof. So I could hop in the back here for a very short journey, but I couldn't do any considerable amount of time. But what I will say is that the seats themselves are actually really quite comfy. They're not much different to the middle row seats, to be honest with you. So if you are a shorter adult or an older child, you'll actually find it really quite comfortable in the back of the Q7. Admittedly, it is also dark, just like that middle row. But aside from that, the seats themselves are relatively comfortable. With the Audi Q7, you do, of course, get an electronically operated tailgate and plenty of space. So even with the 3rd row of seats up, you get more space in the rear here than you would do in an Audi A1 Super Mini. So it's about 270 litres worth of space. And then to put these rear seats down, it's dead easy. You just press a button and then they go down electronically the whole way. Once those rear row of seats are down, you've got a nice big flat loading area that has over 800 litres of space, which is huge and probably more than you're ever going to need. So there's some extra storage space here underneath the floor. There's some netting on the side there to store some loose items, and there's also some lashing points as well. Overall, it's a very big, very usable space. You've got a scuff plate here as well for when you're dragging suitcases in and out of the car. So yeah, super practical. On the go, the Audi Q7 is pretty much exactly what you'd expect. It's incredibly comfortable, incredibly refined, very, very quiet, and you can take it to extra levels of refinement and comfort by opting for a Q7 with the air suspension. Personally, that's what I would look to go for. I think it takes a car that's already very comfortable and takes it up to almost limo levels of comfort. It makes such a difference, and it just kind of really elevates the Q7 above the competition. So yeah, if you can, definitely check out a Q7 with air suspension. The Audi Q7 is obviously a big car, and you do feel that at times whilst driving it, manoeuvring it around town, in a car park, down country lanes. You're going to notice the bulk of this car. It's impossible not to. But that's the same for any car in this segment, whether you're looking at an X5 or an XC90 or a VW Touareg, for example. They all feel their size around town. That they're big cars, it's unavoidable. If you want comfort and space, it's just something you're going to have to deal with. But once you get this car onto a motorway or out onto the open road, it just feels like a nice cruiser. It's completely manageable. It's what it's made for, I think, is just absolutely churning out big journeys. I think you could cross continents in the Audi Q7 very, very comfortably. And obviously you've got 7 seats, and on this car today we have got the roof bars on top, so you can get 7 people on board, a couple of roof boxes, because obviously when those rear seats are in use you have limited luggage space. So make use of the roof bars, put some roof boxes on top, fill it with all the luggage, and away you go. And I think it'd be a breeze, absolute breeze, family holidays in a Q7. Obviously a Q7 is very good for towing as well. You'll notice lots of people with caravans use a Q7 to tow, so it's very, very capable in that regard. And I just think it's the ultimate kind of family holiday car. Now, the steering is very light. This is not a responsive driving feel, shall we say. You can obviously utilize the drive select modes and change the settings there, but it's not what this car is built for. This car is built for comfort, so the light steering helps make it maneuverable, so it makes sense that you would have it. You also do feel really quite high in the Q7. So I drive a Touareg, that's my daily driver, and the Q7, despite being very, very similar car, obviously comes from the same group and very similar proportions. It does feel higher, actually. You just feel like you are that little bit higher on the road. You've got a little bit more vision, and you just seem to feel like you kind of tower above people a little bit more, which I know for many people is important when you're looking at a car like this. You want that feeling of being raised, especially if we come back to that idea of doing lots of motorway journeys. Being able to see over the traffic is always helpful, although nowadays everybody else is in an SUV, so how far over the traffic you can see is somewhat diminished compared to maybe a few years ago, but it's still very, very useful to have. In the Q7 you've also obviously got Audi's famed Quattro system, so that means 4-wheel drive, plenty of grip in pretty much any circumstances, as long as you've got the right tyres, obviously. Now, the Q7 is not built for going off-road. I'm sure it will do a very capable job of getting you out of a muddy car park and, you know, towing a horse box across a muddy field potentially. No problems there, once again, as long as you've got the right tyres. It's not a Land Rover Discovery though. It's not going to go off into the deepest, darkest depths. But what it will do is be very, very capable in road conditions. So ice, snow, if you've got some winter tyres or some all seasons that are kind of snow rated, you're going to be unstoppable in this car. You really will. And even in regular, just kind of slippy conditions, having that 4-wheel drive really makes a difference in terms of traction. Obviously it doesn't help with stopping and turning, but in terms of getting you moving, that Quattro system and the traction it provides is really, really useful. Now, I always mention my height in car reviews because it's kind of relevant. I'm just under 6'2", so I'm quite tall, and I can't get comfortable in quite a lot of cars, to be honest with you, especially when I've got a car seat behind me if I've got the kids in the car. Now, the Q7, there's no such problems. I'm super comfortable. The seats in this S-Line model are very, very comfy as well. It's a very pleasant place to be, and we're at winter time. It's not winter time right now. I'd stick the heated seats on and be very, very comfy. The final thing to mention is this 3-litre diesel engine in the Audi Q7 is actually surprisingly refined. Like I say, this car is built for refinement, so maybe it's not a surprise, but a big diesel engine, you don't normally associate that with a smooth, refined driving experience, but that is what you get in the Q7. It's very quiet, there's no engine noise at all. The gear changes are nice and smooth. And bear in mind, this is the model we're in today, an 8-year-old car. And you wouldn't know it. The interior, there's no rattles, there's no creaks. It just feels so solid and well put together. It feels like it's made out of granite. It's just real, like, impeccable build quality. It's worth remembering with any big diesel 4x4, when looking at a used vehicle, it's always worth checking the service history. Make sure that the auto box has been serviced when it's supposed to. Make sure that the four-wheel drive system has been serviced when it's supposed to be. It's just something that you don't want to go wrong. And the same with the air suspension. If the car has got air suspension, it's always worth checking that. So you'll find that you can lower and raise the ride height. So do that, make sure that the vehicle goes up and down as it's supposed to do, and make sure that there's kind of no knocking or sagging from the suspension when you're on the move or when stationary. But you should find as well that with the Q7, this car is 8 years old and there's no rattles, there's no noises inside. Everything feels incredibly well put together and solid. It's what you'd expect from an Audi. It's the build quality is superb, and this car, sure, like in terms of how it looks, it does look a bit dated now compared to rivals, but in terms of how it feels, it just feels so solid and well put together and like it's built to last. I think this car just, yeah, it stood up to the miles and the age really well, and I think that's what you should expect from a Q7. If you go to view a Q7, go to a test drive and there's some rattles and things don't quite feel like they're bolted down properly, you might want to do a bit more digging, because it should feel like this. It should feel really solid and well put together and a premium place to be, even though it's used. Now, the Audi Q7 is proof that you can have practicality and luxury all in one vehicle. This thing is huge. It's a big car, and that means plenty of interior space for all occupants. It's also incredibly comfortable and refined, and the build quality inside is second to none. Sure, it's not going to be as capable off-road as a Land Rover Discovery that also offers 7 seats, and it's not going to be as dynamic to drive as a BMW X5. But what it is going to be a nice middle ground between the two. It's not as cumbersome as a Discovery. It's more spacious and practical than an X5, and it's all wrapped up in a really refined package. It's one of my favourite 7-seaters on the used market. Thanks for watching this need to know used car review of the Mark II Audi Q7. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you're notified every time we release a new video.